Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Nizam and I'm Assistant Professor Community Medicine in Nusheira Medical College. Today we are going to talk about the clinical trials. What is clinical trials? Well, whenever you see the word clinical, that's mean this kind of research has been done on human being. Clinical trials are the research studies which is performed in human to evaluate medical or surgical or behavioral interventions. And also, clinical trials are the primary way to discover new drugs, diets, or medical or surgical devices to check if these kind of devices or drug or diet is safe in human or not. Why clinical trials? Well, clinical trials will help us to determine any side effect or any complication of the drugs, because theoretical or theory is not the best path in clinical trials. And let me just tell you about the clinical trials. Before clinical trials, there is another trial which is we call preclinical trials. And that preclinical trials, usually we're doing that kind of research in animals. And after preclinical trials, we're doing clinical trials. In the exam, there will be no question from preclinical trials, but of course there will be question from clinical trials, so remember that. And how many phases in the clinical trial is? Well, many people, they are believe that there are 5 phases. Most of the people thinking that in total there are 4 phases. So let me just tell you a little bit about the phases. So we're starting from phase 0 or from phase O, which is usually unhealthy human volunteers. Phase 1 also is unhealthy human volunteers. Phase 2 on patients, phase 3 on patients, and phase 4 also on patients. So in total there are 5 phases. Let me just give you a little bit more detail what we're doing in these 5 phases. Phase O or phase 0. Well, the purpose of phase O or phase 0 is basically we are looking the toxicity, the side effect, or any kind of complication of the drugs on healthy human volunteers, but with the microdose and with the small number of participants. And why we're doing that? Well, so if there is any kind of side effects or toxicity or any kind of complication of the drugs occur, so it will be in a small number of volunteers. We will be able to provide help to those volunteers ASAP. Now, phase 1. Basically, phase 1 is also we are looking the toxicity, the complication, and the side effect of the drugs, but with the actual number of participants and with the real dose of the study or of the research. So this is the difference between phase 0 or phase O and phase 1. Phase 2. The purpose of phase 2 is basically we are looking the drug efficacy in the patients. So phase 0 and phase 1 on the healthy human volunteers, and what we are looking at those 2 phases, basically the complication, the toxicity, and the side effect of the drugs. And in phase 2 we are looking the drug efficacy in patients. And phase 3. Phase 3 is actually very important phase of the clinical trials. And why is very important? Well, we are comparing our drug with the existing drug in the market. And after phase 3, our drug will be launched in the market. So that's why phase 3 is very important, because after phase 3 our drugs will be available in the market. And also we're doing RCT, randomized control trials, in phase 3. You can watch my other video, which is I provided full detail about the RCT in that video. So the question is, if we already launched our drug, or if our drugs is already available in the market, why we doing phase 4 then? Well, phase 4 is also a very important phase of the clinical trials. What we basically looking in phase 4? Well, we are looking long-term and rare side effect of the drug. And for how long we can do phase 4? This is another question. Well, from 10 years to 25 years, or for many years really. And you probably heard about the many drugs which is from the beginning the drug was in the market and that was very wonderful workable drug, but after some years, like after 10 years even, the drug was completely just gone from the market. Well, how many drugs was just been after even the drugs was came in the market? You can watch my other video on that topic, which is I provided full detail on those drugs which was been and why that drug was been, with the side effect and with the more detail basically. You can watch that video. But in this video particularly we are talking today about the clinical trials. So hopefully now you do understand what is clinical trials and how to do the clinical trials, how many phases in the clinical trials, phase 0, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 and phase 4, and all those phases you understand that. Of course there is some MCQs which is maybe more helpful for you, and let me just ask you a few questions of that. Before the answer, write down your answer on the paper, so then you can check your knowledge if you do understand about the clinical trials or not. So if you not, watch the video again and again, and then you will be able to answer all those questions. So the question number 1, which one phase is the longest phase of the clinical trial? Write down your answer on the paper. Phase 4. Question number 2, post-marketing surveillance. Phase 4. Question number 3, maximum tolerated dose evaluated in which phase? Phase 1. Well, because we are looking any kind of toxicity, any kind of side effect or complication of the drugs on healthy human volunteers. And in which phase we doing that? In phase 1. Question number 4, maximum drug failure occur in which phase? Yes, of course, in phase 2, because in phase 2 we are checking, or we are looking the drug efficacy and patients. Question number 5, which phase is RCT? Well, phase 3. As I said, phase 3 is really important phase of the clinical trials, because we are comparing our drug with the existing drug in the market. Question number 6, which one is the most important phase of the clinical trials? You probably know that. Yes, of course, phase 3. Question number 7, in which phase we reducing dose of the drug? Yes, of course, phase 0 or phase O. Hopefully you like the video, and if you think it's interesting, please share with your colleague. Subscribe our channel for more good video related to health. Look after yourself. Take care. Allah Hafiz.